Imagine a service you could rent, not Netflix, not ride-sharing, but a toolkit that gives criminals about 1,200 SIM box devices and around 40,000 active SIM cards from dozens of countries with one click. A system so slick it turns anonymity into a product. One rented number, one convincing local presence. The infrastructure helped spawn over 49 million fake online accounts, fueled thousands of frauds across Europe, and quietly funneled approximately 5 million euros to its operators. One click, one rented number, and suddenly a crook looks like your neighbor, your bank, your boss, and you don't even know it. That's not fiction, it's real, and law enforcement just shut down one of the biggest operations of its kind. In October 2025, authorities across multiple European countries converged on a criminal infrastructure so vast it looked like a parallel telecom system. This wasn't just a hack. It was a criminal service disguised as infrastructure. The operation, codenamed SIM Cartel, provided SIM cards, phone numbers, routing hardware, and even turnkey dashboards to criminals around the globe. Its scale? Ridiculous. Thousands of devices, tens of thousands of SIMs, and millions of fake accounts built on top of real systems. If you're sitting here thinking that's just telecom stuff, stop. Because this touches basics: authentication, identity, trust. And trust is the currency of our connected age. At Tileris, we believe the enemy is no longer just the malware in the inbox. It's the rented number on the SMS. Visit Tileris.com to request a demo and see how our AI agents hunt fake numbers, suspicious provisioning, and other signals of criminal infrastructure. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how this operation worked, how it functioned like a service, and what every person and organization must learn. Let's begin with the blueprint. A SIM box. Picture a device roughly the size of a shoebox, stacked with dozens, even hundreds of SIM cards. Each SIM is provisioned with a legitimate mobile subscription from a specific country. The box uses voice over IP or internet routing to connect calls or SMS through those SIMs. So from the outside, the traffic looks local, matching a country code, matching a mobile carrier. But on the inside, it's controlled by a remote server in a criminal farm. Now imagine thousands of these boxes stacked in a room. That was the heart of the network authorities shut down. According to Europol, the infrastructure included around 1,200 SIM box devices and upward of 40,000 active SIM cards. These were linked to a service offering criminal clients access to numbers from over 80 countries. Why does this matter? Because so much of digital identity still depends on a phone number. Two-factor authentication, often SMS. Account verification, phone call or SMS. Fraud detection systems often trust the number because it looks local and legitimate. The criminals bypassed all that by renting numbers en masse. The scheme looked like a rent-a-number service, or more accurately, rent a trusted identity service. The network offered criminal clients a dashboard. Pick your country, pick your volume, route your messages, rotate numbers, hide your track. A client could sign up, use fake accounts, send phishing or smishing campaigns, impersonate banks, investment companies, service desks, family members needing funds, or whatever the scam of the day was. In Austria, investigators linked the service to 1,700 fraud cases. In Latvia, another 1,500. Let's walk through an example. A scammer wants to target a victim in Germany. They rent a number in Germany via the service. They send an SMS claiming to be the bank's fraud department. They ask the victim to call a number or enter a code. The rented number passes the verification. The scammer now appears credible. Or they register an account somewhere using that number. Now the fraud toolkit is inside the system. Because the number is local, the victim doesn't think twice. Because the routing hides the real location, tracing it becomes very difficult. And because the infrastructure is scalable, One scammer can launch hundreds of attacks in parallel. The service also enabled other crimes, investment frauds promising high returns, fake online shops, impersonation of police or regulators demanding money. Even child exploitation and human smuggling schemes were facilitated through the anonymous numbers. How did the takedown happen? On October 10, 2025, Latvian police, aided by law enforcement partners in Austria, Estonia, Finland, and under the coordination of Europol and Eurojust, executed raids in multiple locations. They seized the hardware, the SIM boxes, the thousands of SIM cards, the servers. They took down front-end websites offering the service, for example, gogetsimsem.com and apisim.com. They froze bank accounts and crypto wallets. Investigators emphasized that this wasn't a sloppy criminal operation. It looked highly professional. The infrastructure resembled a legitimate telecom business, provisioning, routing, billing, switching, but built for crime. And the losses? In Austria alone, around 4.5 million euros. In Latvia, about 420,000 euros. But that's just what's been measured so far. The full scale is still being uncovered. Europol said the damage amounts to several million euros, and could be far higher. This matters for you and your business because it shows a key shift. Attackers are no longer hacking for the high-risk, high-loss one-hit breach. They are renting infrastructure, turning fraud into service, scaling operations like a legitimate platform. And when criminals treat identity as a service, the cost of entry goes down, the volume of attacks goes up, and the pressure on security teams becomes enormous. The market for criminal services has evolved through several phases. Years ago, the barrier to entry was technical skill. You needed to build malware, manage servers, and launder payments. Over time, underground markets learned to specialize. One group builds the malware, another distributes it, another launders the proceeds. That division of labor reduced risk and increased efficiency for criminals. SIM-box services represent the next logical step. Commoditize trust. Victim stories make this abstract cost painfully real. Elderly pensioners answering what appears to be a bank text and then finding their savings drained. Small business owners who lose access to supplier accounts because attackers use rented numbers to pass two-factor checks. Families targeted by romance scams persuaded to send thousands because the call came from a local number and the voice matched a believable story. Each of those incidents carries not just financial cost, but emotional and social damage that can last years. How investigators tracked the network. Takedowns of this scale are not theater. They're the result of meticulous, often invisible work. Investigators started by tracing transaction patterns, payments to the service, crypto flows, and the ISP footprints that appeared when servers momentarily misconfigured. They combined traditional investigative craft, interviews, bank records analysis, with modern digital forensics, metadata analysis, tenant profiling, and cross-referencing chat logs and marketplace posts. Crucially, international cooperation made this possible. Mobile operators across borders shared provisioning records. Financial intelligence units followed money flows. Europol provided the analytical backbone to link disparate threads. One server log that looks meaningless in isolation becomes a smoking gun when matched with a bank transfer and a pattern of SIM registrations. That cross-domain correlation is what turned a criminal infrastructure into an investigable target. So what should you do right now? First, treat phone-based authentication as a single signal, not a silver bullet. Combine it with device fingerprints, geolocation anomalies, and behavioral analytics. Watch for spikes in registrations from the same provider, or rapid rotation of numbers for new accounts. Second, educate your teams. Social engineering remains a top vector because it targets human trust. Teach employees to treat unexpected requests, especially those involving money or credential resets, with skepticism. institute verification steps that don't rely solely on numbers, callback procedures, out-of-band confirmations, or internal approval gates. Third, work with your vendors. Banks, telecoms, and identity providers should share anomaly feeds in trusted partnerships. If one institution sees a sudden wave of suspicious verifications tied to particular provisioning services, that signal should propagate quickly. What do we learn from this? First, the biggest vulnerability isn't always a broken server or missing patch. It's the permission you gave your system to trust a phone number, an SMS code, or a user registration. When you treat a number as a reliable trust anchor, you're handing key access to the attacker's rented infrastructure. Second, prevention must shift. It's no longer sufficient to monitor for malware signatures and cyber intrusions alone. You must watch for suspicious account setups, location mismatches, suddenly active blocks of numbers, and the behavioral fingerprints of automated provisioning. Third, law enforcement takedowns are essential, but not sufficient. Disruptions slow criminals, but the long game is resilience, building systems that assume attackers already have access. This was more than a takedown, it was a wake-up call. The message: identity and trust can be rented like a room, and the room might be next door to your network. At Tileris, we build AI agents to monitor beyond the firewall, to hunt rental numbers, fake identities, and suspicious routes before they become your incident. If you want to see how this works in real time, visit Tileris.com and request a demo. Meanwhile, if this breakdown helped you make sense of how fraud has evolved, like this video, share it with someone who still thinks SMS codes keep them safe, and subscribe for more real-world cybercrime stories. Stay alert, stay secure. Thanks for watching.